All right. Good evening, everyone. Can anyone just confirm if they can hear me well? Maybe you can unmute and or maybe drop a message.
Yes, we can hear you.
All right. Great. So, thanks to everyone for joining in. We'll be getting started. Right about now. Yeah. So, I believe many of us already know why we are here. Right. It's gonna be an intro to Azure AI Studio, basically. So I think we can get started. But just before we get started, just to do a sort of brief roundup and something. How many of us have worked with Azure AI services at all? Like not Azure AI Studio itself now. Is there any one of us that maybe use the transcription, semi-translation service, the speech service, the vision service, any of Azure AI services? Anyone? You can drop in the chat also if you have. This kind of part identity for error. Something is messing. Okay. Um, can you hear me now? All right. So it seems Miriam has right. Um, Miriam, can you just briefly share before we continue? Can you briefly share some of the services you've used and how you use them? Just to give us a brief intro into what we're going to be talking about today. So basically, before we even continue, Azure AI Studio, right, is so we will see a video just shortly after this, right? Is an embodiment of everything, right? Of all Azure AI services, including Azure OpenAI services in a studio where you can easily integrate everything, build what you want to build easily and seamlessly, and most of it, all the workflows being automated for you, right? So before we go fully into that, I would like Miriam to just give us, share our experience with using Azure AI services.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, using Azure AI services. So last year, I think around October, we did like um October First challenge where we sort of worked together to build um a translator service incorporating the Azure AI speech service. Yes, so we basically used um the translator service to like translate English text or audio to either Yoruba, Hausa, or Igbo. Yes, so that's one of the experiences I have using Azure AI. Yes, thank you.
All right. Yeah. Thanks a lot for sharing that, Miriam. Yeah. So yeah, just like you mentioned, we had that solution built around for October 1st, yeah, and it's on the MLSA Nigeria GitHub repo. So I think maybe while this goes on, Miriam can help share that on the in the chat. So if you want to check out that project, it's a deployed project actually. You can test it out. So it basically works for both text, so it was the translation service and also the speech service. The speech service to transcribe to text, then the translation service does the translation from English to Igbo, Yoruba, or Hausa. So you can either upload a voice note or something, or type in the text you want to translate to each of any of those languages. So thanks for sharing that, Miriam. So we'll be getting started fully now. Let me just introduce myself. I'm Samuel Bangola, a Gold Microsoft Learn Student Ambassador. And then I'll be taking us through the session for today, which is on getting started with Azure AI Studio. So, like I said in my description, it's the season of AI, sort of, for Microsoft, right? So I believe from time to time you might be seeing a couple of other AI focused events coming up, and I will encourage us to, join in. There's a lot to learn. There's a lot to benefit from. For many of us that focus on machine learning and AI, Azure AI Studio is an amazing tool you'd love to try out, especially if you have interest in generative AI and large language models. So let's go on. Okay, so we have this survey, right? It will come up at the end also, just for us to feel and share what we think or what we've benefited from during this session, right? So I would leave this for now, then we'll come back to it once we are done towards the end, yeah. So let's have that in mind. So put your follow along, make sure you're getting something, and then at the end of that, would love to hear from you, just like you saw there. Uh, can anyone hear the audio? Hello? Were you hearing
No,
the
I
audio
can't.
from the video?
Yes, we can hear you.
You can hear me, but can you hear the audio from the video?
No.
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 I cannot hear.
Okay, okay, okay.
We're witnessing the shift of generative AI from a niche technology in the hands of a few to an accessible technology businesses are harnessing to benefit the many. Now you can tap into this opportunity to gain an AI advantage, get to market fast, do it right, and do so responsibly, safely, and securely. Copilots are becoming an AI category in and of themselves. And today, you can build custom copilots to serve the exact needs of your customers and employees. Bringing content generation to all kinds of apps to supercharge creativity. Designing contextual experiences that impress and captivate. And train people to focus on their highest value work. This is Azure AI Studio, the place to build your copilots, where you can confidently apply the latest state-of-the-art and open source models. Easily ground responses in your data, knowing privacy is protected. Deliver multi-modal interactions beyond text alone that feel more natural. And build on a foundation of trust through every step of app development. The possibilities with AI are limitless. Build your own copilot with Azure AI. Let's do generative AI right together.
All right, so that's just a brief intro into Azure AI Studio. Right.
We're witnessing the shift of generative AI
So we'll be going fully now into our talk of today. So you could have seen, I mean, you definitely have seen from the video that a lot was shared as regards all the things you can accomplish or do with Azure AI Studio, right? And then it's available to the public now through this link, right? I have it opened on my laptop here, which I'm going to go through and test out some things. And I shared, we'll do a demo using a um, GST course material, right? From so one of the courses I took last, I think it was last semester. Yeah. I mean last session. What was last semester? Yeah, last semester. So would experiment using Azure AI Studio to build a sort of assistant, right? Using basically some of the things that you'd have heard with using maybe LangChain, creating embeddings to your data and all that. It abstracts all that process for you. Then basically all you just have to do is maybe upload the documents that you want to give it as context. You get. So you can visit this link, right? Azure AI Studio, Azure, ai.azure.com, right? Then you can experiment with as much as you want to experiment with. So moving on, we have the Copilot stack, right? We have the Copilot Studio, Microsoft Copilot, your Copilot, Microsoft apps, everything that Microsoft is doing as regards Copilot. I think many of us also are familiar with the Windows Copilot too, right? So, and most of all these things are built with your data, relationship with your data, and then satisfying what you want. Recommendation systems are sort of like AI models. All those things is sort of working with your own data and then personalizing it for you. That's why it's called a co-pilot, right? It's personalizing it for you. You're working hand in hand. Yep. And then so in summary, Azure AI Studio is a unified platform for developing generative AI apps and custom copilot experiences, which I already shared from the beginning, right? So everything is an all-in-one studio, basically. All right. Compared to how Azure AI services are. I mean, it's not like they are no longer like that, but you need one thing, you go for that resource, or you need to combine. There are like systems of how you can, create your resource groups and house all those different resources, different services in that resource group. But with Azure AI Studio, if you want to do anything as regards AI, generative AI in broad sense, you just go directly to the Azure Studio and then do whatever experimentation that you wish to do. Right. So you have unified platform, data and search, foundation models, right? Safe and responsible AI, a full development life cycle, right? Whatever you want to do, Azure AI Studio got you basically. So we'll have a brief demo of what a walk around of the Azure AI Studio. I've got a video around that back here, and then I would also explain. So by the times for our demo, I would show you myself around, but I'll use this video to show you around basically at the moment. So give me a second for that. Yeah. All right. So this is just a preview of how the AI Studio looks, right? Um, you have the settings where you can check where your API keys and everything is. So this is like just a full overview of it, right? So you can see everything running. You can see the resources that have been created for you automatically instead of you having to go there one by one. Then you have your deployments here also, right? Where you can select whatever AI model you want to use. So these are open AI services within Azure. You can deploy the DALI or whatever it is. You can come up to the playground to test out what you built so far, to experiment before doing your deployment. So you have this playground to experiment with whatever you want to do, right? With chat sessions, you can add your data, right? We're going to do a demo on this part where we add the GSC courses materials, which I mentioned already. And one beautiful thing about the way LLMs or let me say assistant work in Copilot is you always have that option for a reference. You see the reference there. You see whatever you want to do. You can test out. You have other options, to check. Okay, is it working fine? You see that it does change the language sort of, right? You can do whatever you want to do. basically here in this playground to do whatever experimentation you wish to do, right? So this is basically like using ChatGPT. You want to compare it, right? But in this case, you are building your own. You probably maybe added your own data. You are fine-tuning it to what you want. So see, if you see that system message towards the left, right, you'd have seen something like you're an assistant, basically trying to like customize what the AI does. All right. So with all that, you can do everything you want to do. You want to evaluate. It's just basically an amazing GUI, or let me say graphical user interface for you to do all that instead of using code, right? I know many of us don't really like to code all these things from scratch, but once you like, you be able to build solutions that people can use and be and probably generate money for you or just for the fun of it and for people to benefit from, right? This Azure AI Studio is an amazing place for you to get started. Yep. So you can see all the evaluations. This is a brief run through of how all there's many things you can do within the Azure AI Studio. You get me? So evaluation instead of I think many of us might have heard about the deep eval metrics where you can evaluate. You can use to evaluate the summary that your prompt is generating. Maybe you want to evaluate summaries, right? You can use it to evaluate that. But within Azure AI Studio now, everything is automated for you, right? All you just need to do is input your prompts, input what you're expecting, all those different things, and then whatever metrics it gives you, it brings it up for you based on what you're trying to build. So it's an amazing, amazing tool that you definitely want to try out. You get me? So moving on, we'll be starting with data and search, right? Data integration, hybrid vector search. And I think many of us are very familiar with RAG. We've almost every LLM or AI event now mention RAG because everybody's building solutions around RAG. RAG is retrieval augmented generation, right? Basically having a data and then LLM leverages it, right? Basically proprietary data. So if you saw through the demo, there are some things on cortisol data. Is a fictional healthcare data that Microsoft uses for most of their tutorials, even on Microsoft Learn. So, right, you would have seen that the LLM is basically going to be leveraging the information from that particular document, right, to give you updates or answer your prompts, basically. So that's where vector search comes in. I think many of us might have heard of vectorizations, embeddings, and stuff like that. So let's say there's a part of it. We would see all that actually. We would see all that. So let me just go on, right? And during the demo, we'll see much more into how everything works. So yeah, data is the fuel that powers AI, definitely. Without, I mean, ML, machine learning is basically data. AI is basically data. Without data, there's no ML. When you train a model, you are training on previous experiences, right? That's happened for it to be able to perform better. So you're training a generative AI model for generating images. So you're probably training with a bunch of images and maybe some text side by side and stuff like that for you to okay, now when I give you this prompt, I want you to be creative and generate something like this. But you're basically trained it on something. So as I was saying, you have a lot to do with data when it comes to ML, data science, and AI, right? So within Azure AI Studio, there are so many data centers, let me call them data centers, that you can leverage, right? You have the blob storage, which is something you can compare to the S3 buckets. And there's one beautiful thing about Azure AI Studio now is that you can actually integrate external sources. So before or previously, you could only use Azure AI, Azure storage services like Cosmos DB, blob storage, the data lake, and the rest of it. But now you can integrate Amazon S3 buckets within Azure AI Studio. So if you are maybe working on an organization or something that maybe they have some data already stored there, or is maybe you're working on a personal project and that's where the data that you want to make use of is stored. You don't maybe necessarily have to download them and bring them up to Azure or something. You can do a connection to S3 buckets using Azure AI Studio, along with other services that are there that you can use for your storage. Azure AI Search is a beautiful service too that you can use for vector storage, embeddings, and everything. It can perform OCR. Basically, yes, you upload a PDF or whatever pictures, it can extract all those information for you and store them in a way that your LLM can consume. Or maybe you're not even using an LLM, you just want to create a search tool, right? It used to be called Azure Cognitive Search, and as soon as Azure AI Search, right? You can perform semantic search, so many things, right? So many things with Azure AI Search standalone. Now imagine combining it with an LLM. Yep. So we have vector search in Azure AI Search. Oh, I mean, this is basically what I've just mentioned, right? You can leverage it in LLMs because it basically does all the extraction, all the like basic. It's AI search, basically, right? I don't know if any of us have maybe tried to. I mean, for my phone in my gallery, sometimes I search for maybe the name of someone, right? And then it brings me up maybe a screenshot of a chat where that person's name is, or maybe an image where that person's name is. So that's basically OCR. So it has been that's it being able to extract the name from the picture. And those are some of the things that you can use as I said. So whatever document you have, right? So of course you cannot just maybe pack a bunch of images and stuff. If you want to get something very good, you have to more discrete and get good data. But let's just assume that all the documents or text that you have is a bunch of images, right? With Azure AI Search, you can basically to extract all those documents for you, right? I mean, all those details in those images, right? So many things you can do in Azure AI Search, keywords, ranking. Yeah, I'll probably share some resources after this it was a particular. I had a talk on this at the Azure Nigeria Community Conference. Um, in October last year on Azure Cognitive Search, before it was changed. And why I even talked about it was because of the interest I have in it. An amazing tool, honestly, even without combining it with LLMs, right? Okay, let me just share one thing again. Uh, you can use sentiments, right, with Azure AI Search. So you can configure, let's say, for example, you want to search a particular thing in a document, like you've put all the documents together and you want to maybe you've built a search solution. You can configure sentiment in the sense that, let's say, let me use a biblical reference, for example, when you want to talk about, and maybe you search the word repentance, right? And then you had a sentiment of, let's say, positive. Azure AI Search can bring up a match within maybe those bunch of documents that you've indexed in it, where probably there's talk about repentance, and you put sentiment of negative. Now, probably the person they repent and maybe he died before repenting or something. It might not be something religious, anything at all. Maybe you're searching about malaria or something, and you put positive, and maybe it brings out a match of a scenario or a place where maybe malaria was mentioned, or a scenario around malaria. It might not be exactly malaria. So let's say, for example, UK. If you search UK with semantic search now, right? In Azure, I said you search UK, it can give you things like Great Britain, matches for Great Britain, matches for England, because those are words that people usually mix up together. So it's an amazing tool. But let me not dwell too much on that. So let's move on to the demo as regards adding your own data. I'll play a short video for us also. Then we'll start our demo of using the GST courses which I mentioned. Okay, so in this case now they are uploading the files from their folder, which is what I did, because I had the PDFs of the course materials already downloaded from the um, from the school LMS. So you can see all that, I can view all that is happening here and everything, right? So this process could take some time because especially if you have like working with PDF and not the text file, you might want to extract everything. So you can see that the index storage is using is Azure AI Search, right? So all the extraction and everything, it might take some time. So I already like this exact process that is being done now is what I already did, right? So I will just show us how well the LLM responds, right, to the data. I mean, extracting everything from the data and all the details, you get me? So with this, you can check, create a sort of like pipeline to see how everything is working, right? This is not entirely necessary, though, except maybe you're particular about to see how everything is going. So now that they added the data source, you can just add it here to your prototype, right? Which is the playground, and then experiments with the data. So this is the console stuff that I was mentioning about. So this one's about products. There's another one on dental data, dental related data. So yeah, we can do whatever configuration you want to do here, how effective or how your operations is basically just click and drag, yeah, and then maybe type. But of course you need to know what you want, because if you don't know what you want, then you probably doing something wrong in your work. So but that's why it's necessary to have an idea of AI or generative AI LLMs, how they work, right? To be able to know how to like seamlessly walk around Azure AI Studio, so you don't just click and drag and just try anything that comes your way, because we have to be responsible in everything we do. So like I was mentioning, beautiful thing is that when you are working with Azure AI Search, right, and integrating with LLM, OpenAI, for example, Azure OpenAI service, you can get references like that, right? You see like direct references to the document, like the part of the document where it extracted the information from, not like extracted, but where it got the knowledge from. All right, so that's it for this particular video. Right, so let's go into our own live demo here. So I think we've gone through the playground, right? We've gone through the playground. We're seeing how everything is. I mean, the Azure AI Studio project overview. And those walk you through on my own end here. So this is like the first page you most likely come across. Let's go straight to the model catalog. So there are so many generative AI models or LLMs that you can leverage here, right? So many. I think many of us have heard about this Microsoft's Phi 3, which is a lightweight open source LLM, right? You have everything here within Azure AI Studio, and you can decide to experiment them. There are loads of them, like loads of them. You can just click and go on. You have meta models here. You have OpenAI models. You have Microsoft AI models. You have NVIDIA generated LLMs, generative AI models. So many, honestly. So, but let me go on to what I was referring to. While that is loading up, let me get to the documents. There's a particular part I want to make reference to. Yep. Okay. Yeah, GST 307. All right, while I was demoing this, I saw something interesting, and then you see that I was able to get out something, right? So this is something on entrepreneurship. That's just basically what the GST course is about, right? So give me a second. Does it? I think it was. I need to get the area where I saw that. Okay, so we have this now. Back to this. Yeah. Okay. Before I go on to the deployment, let me just go to to show you a list of AI models you can just directly use, right? You can for the embeddings, I had to create this because we're going to be using our own text and all that, and then the prompts too will have to be embedded along with the context. So let me try and create a demo, like a deployment. The same someone is okay. Okay. You can see that you have GPT-4 only, which that OpenAI recently launched, right? Where you can upload images, text, and interact with it, even in like with your environment and all that. You have so many of these. You have like 5 dimension. You have DALI and the rest of them. All that generative, like text-related generative AI models for chats, right? If you want to do some more experimentation, you can just go ahead and do that. With images, you have DALI. You can select what deployments you want to create. I've not created any, but with DALI 2 now, you can just try something and then maybe try to generate and all that. You see everything here. Yeah, you can just select. I just experimented with this. I used DALI. Let me try something. Let me say generate an image um, that has the text getting started with Azure AI Studio. Let's see what it generates. Then we'll go ahead to continue what we're talking about. I hope this doesn't take time. I think my network should be good. Okay, since my network isn't so good. Okay, so basically, right, as we saw from the first video, there are so many things you can just try out here, right? The model catalog, which I already talked about, the chat interface, which we're coming back to, completions, assistant. You can, evaluate, okay, it's done, but it's not really perfect. But this is, I mean, it's kind of captures something about thinking the cloud and everything. Maybe because I just mentioned text. If something more intuitive, like maybe generate. I mean, can someone give me a prompt just to experiment it? Just the playground here. I mean, I think many of us have used DALI or something to generate images to experiment. Um, Anyone with a prompt that I can test out? Something responsible, not something.
An archer riding a bicycle.
Okay. Natural riding a bicycle. Thank you. I mean, that's some weird thoughts. I mean, what's the line of thinking for that? Your task failed as a result of our safety system. Seems like your prompt is not responsible. Thank you. Let me see your horse. Probably that's yes. Let me see from the settings. Maybe that. Uh, I'm surprised it's seamless. A, a man on the streets. All right, so this is just basically some experimentation, right? There's so much more you can do. So let me go back to what I was, I mean, the main focus for the demo. Yeah. And that is using GPT-4 or along with your data on a GST course, right? So like I mentioned, the process that was followed, I've done that, but you can decide to add yours here. So you can just click, instead of going through all that process, which is not what I did. What I just did was I came to the chat playground after creating my deployment for chat GPT-4 0 or 4.0 Omni. Yeah, I just went here, clicked add a new data source, upload files, and I went on to upload the files from here, right? So I've done that already. It took about maybe 10-15 minutes for all the embeddings and creation of everything. So I'll just go ahead and select this now, right? Since I already did those embeddings. So with this now, I'm going to ask an interesting question, right? Which I found fascinating too, yes, when I was experimenting, which I just want to share. So if you look at this particular point here in this document, it just says importance of technology entrepreneurship in the 21st century, right? And then they talk about different things. It said first, technology has turned turned the world to a global village and the rest of all that, you know. So the prompt that I gave it was, I mean, did I copy that? So I said in bullet points, right? Something similar to this, or maybe exactly this. List the importance of technology in the person. So now you see that, well, let's just wait for it to generate. Yeah. So this is loading up. I think it's done. It's almost done. Okay, it's done. So we can see here that it basically goes like it properly extracts the information and puts them in bullet points. So if you notice here, in the document, they said first, technology has turned the world to a global village. And you can see here, it extracts it as global connectivity. Technology has turned the world into a global village, allowing access to goods and services anywhere, anytime, right? He picks out this part too. Second, through technology, entrepreneurship, right? Cross-border ventures. Third, several companies have deployed the use of technology for purpose of deepening their market penetration. I think it grows out of ease of business. Okay, market, there's also market penetration there, right? Other safeguards, reduction in market cost. So you can see that the LLM, right, along with your data, is basically to extract this vital information, right? But if you remove this data source now, and like let's say for example you're trying to prepare for a quiz now, and let's say remove this data source, this will start a new session. Sure. So remove this data source, we still have it here, and then we input the same prompt, right? We're going to definitely get something different. So you can see that this is sort of like generic. It's not exactly from what is in your document. It's not like it's wrong, but it's not grounded. Basically, it's not deep enough, it's not knowledgeable enough to give you exactly maybe what your lecturers might be expecting, stuff like that. So that's the beauty about combining LLMs, right, with your own data. And then you can see how well it performed, right? I don't know if there's anyone on this call that took this course last semester and might just, has any question. Let us do one or two more prompts before we go ahead and see how well it performs. And which, okay, before we even go on, let me explain what I meant about it getting out the details, right? Which is giving you the reference. So let me type in this prompt again or something else. Maybe we should try something else. Let's try something else. Let me ask for who is the father of modern capitalism or entrepreneurship. In that sense, I think it's still loading up or something. I'm wondering why that is not responding. Let me just try that again. Okay, I think it's still loading up here. All right, so while that is on, I guess that would be a problem with my network or something. So while that is loading up, let us go on. I'll come back to this to just do some playing around with it. But I think with this, we can see how well LLMs, right, and using how easy it is to use the Azure AI Studio to work with your own data. Just basically click, add data, everything, and then you can do some experimentation on your end before you now go ahead. So maybe you want to deploy it to a web app and everything. And it's just basically, just clicking some options and typing some things, and then you get maybe your API key, your endpoint, and whatever you want to do seamlessly, low code. I mean, almost no code, basically. So let's go on. Where were we? Okay, so right. So moving on, we have foundation models, right? Which we'll go ahead to discuss now. We have the latest Azure OpenAI service models. We have DALI 3, which is also an image generation model, right? You have GPT Turbo. We have with Vision, right? That's like GPT-4 Omni, the O1, GPT-4 Turbo, the rest of them. We have so many, basically, so many to play with, right? Okay. Um, I don't think I need to dwell too much on this because it's something that we've all played around with a lot, right? You could have seen too from Build, um, Microsoft Build, and the OpenAI session too, where they talked about all these AI services, how they work and everything, right? The demos, I mean, the demos were really fascinating. I found the one on, trying to locate, using conversing with someone else with GPT-4 Omni, like and then it does the transcription, it does everything. Maybe it tells you, okay, you need to put on change this hat and all that. It doesn't look so good. Like basically, if a real life co-pilot sort of, right, advising you what to do, your dressing, and like it can interpret all that, right? So Azure AI, right, basically builds on trust. Your data is your data. Your data is not used to train the foundation models, right? Your data is protected by the most comprehensive enterprise compliance and security conditions. In terms of responsible AI, they follow all this. Like I mentioned, when it comes to Copilot now, it's basically using your data, like what I mean by your data now, with what you are feeding it, what you are telling it to do, and then telling it to assist you with and stuff like that. You get so but then before it's able to actually assist you, it has been trained on some data before now, right? So that's just basically how everything works. So you can fine tune your Azure OpenAI models within Azure AI, Azure AI Studio, right? So many of these things are like amazing that you can actually experiment with. We've talked about RAG, right? But then fine tuning is different now. So fine tuning, you're actually like building on the existing model to make it better. I don't know if you get what I mean. So, for example, let's say, a friend of mine worked on a project recently. I think many of us might have actually seen it. It was something on Nigerian conversations, right? So he fine-tuned, I think it was Llama 2 or Llama 3 on a Naira Land data set. If you know Sahid, you can just check him out on Twitter, right? So that's fine-tuning, right? There are different techniques for fine-tuning. There's LoRa, and because LoRa is like more efficient sort of. It's not as computationally expensive to use, right? So it's basically you're adding like an extra layer. You're just fine tuning an extra layer of uh, the LLM, right? Not the whole LLM from scratch. You get me? So with that, you can add some documents like some question answering samples and all that of how you want it to be responding to your questions, or for it to just have some more knowledge base on how Nigerians converse. So by the time you ask a question, it's going to be talking like in Nigerian because it has been trained on a host of extra Nigerian-based comments and posts from Naira land, right? So that's fine-tuning. For RAG, British Rich Family Generation, is different. Basically, you're giving it some information. So when he wants to answer that a new question or something, he uses that information and knowledge that he previously has. So that's just the difference there. You have a lot of this, which I already talked about, of these models you can deploy and fine tune. So we have models as a service, right? So said launching soon. We have Meta's Llama 2, Mistral's premium models. I think many of us know Mistral. And the rest of them, to make use of ready-to-use API with pay-as-you-go billing based on tokens for LLM, basically how you'd use them generally, right? You have so many of these guys on. So model as a service, meaning you have models and you just use them. And I think many of us are familiar with platform as a service, infrastructure as a service, and the rest, right? So Azure AI Studio basically is bringing you this where you can basically have a platform where you use models as a service. I mean, use models as a service, basically. I mean, the service they're offering are the models. I don't know if you get what I mean. Just like you have platform as a service, you're using their platform for your service. So sort of like that, right? There are a lot of them already, which I showed us already. The Meta models, Microsoft, and the rest of them. So I'm coming. Let me just set this up. Okay, so we have model benchmarking. I don't want to dwell too much on some things that might be complex to us. For it's just basically a lot of things that you can do with Azure AI Studio. A lot of things. As you go deeper, you know what you need and what you don't need, right? Depending on how complex the solution you want to build. So this is meant to be beginner friendly. So I won't dwell too much on this, but you can just understand what it means. So like I said, I mean, it says model benchmarks will offer users a comprehensive comparison view for benchmarking metrics or foundation models in the model catalog. So you can do whatever evaluation you want to do, right? It's massive, basically. Like I said, it's an all-in-one platform for you, right? So it's definitely something that you want to leverage if you want to like build AI solutions or generative AI solutions much faster than you already do, or you just want to, just try them out for maybe a simple personal project or a family group project or a school project. You can use LLMs, I mean, Azure AI Studio to build a simple project, maybe for a class course where your friends can just basically, plug and play and relate with the copilots, ask them questions on the courses they are studying because you've already added the documents and maybe some PDFs as knowledge base to the LLM, right? Let's say GPT-4, for example, which we demoed which we demoed on, right? You can just give them, create a simple project for them like that. I mean, it won't stress you so much, instead of maybe trying to spin up one what I call it, a virtual environment, trying to code all that from scratch and everything again, doing the setup. But with Azure AI Studio, you can do that seamlessly, right? And then we have safe and responsible AI. I think many of us are very familiar with responsible AI. I won't say it's been emphasized, but it's something that has been rung over and over again to our ears for maybe over a year now, right? For Microsoft, Google, and other top AI solutions organizations, right, trying to implement AI responsibly. So Microsoft responsible AI principles are fairness, reliability and safety, privacy and security, inclusiveness, transparency, and accountability. And all these principles have their different meanings, right? Have their different ways of how they are being applied. You get me? So it's really important to put in all this while you're trying to build your solution. So if you see while we're trying to create a sample, right? It said that it doesn't align with it's triggered some safety stuff and it couldn't generate that error message. That's part of the responsible AI practices, you get me. So you have Azure Search, you have the research, policy and engineering with the Office of Responsible AI. So um basically, right, it's just basically like an explanation of different ways or different will I say industries that these responsible AI practices have to be applied. Like it cuts across everything basically. So all these you also have access to in the Azure AI Studio, your dashboard for your content safety. We talked a bit about this content safety and the evaluation and RI dashboard at the Microsoft AI Responsible AI events. That was in March, yeah, with Zindi also. So for those of us that attended, I think you'd be familiar with this. Some of these tools, there were extensive workshops on them, right? So moving on finally to a full development life cycle, right? You have your prompt flow, definitely, right? Without prompts, you don't have your LLMs working. I mean, you just have your LLMs, but if you don't prompt it, you won't get anything out. So the prompt flow is basically what powers all the generations and everything. You get there are tools that you can use for the evaluation. If you see from the first video, we had that too. So I mentioned the deep eval metric, which is something that is commonly used. For example, I've tried to use it for summarization where I'm evaluating the summary generated by the LLM output. I'm trying to compare prompts and say, okay, which one is actually performing best, right? With Azure AI Studio, you can seamlessly use the tools there for evaluation and evaluating your prompts, right? The outputs from them, whether it's for summarization or whether it's for particular need, maybe health related or school related or finance related, you can do whatever evaluation you want to do within Azure AI Studio, right? So this is also coming soon, extending Azure AI Studios to Edge, right? You have all these that will be coming up, simplifies generative AI app development experience on local Windows devices and the rest of that. So let's use this time to just briefly go back, right, to our demo and see if it's generated something. I think maybe the network is still really bad or something. That should be. But any questions so far? Have we gained something new? Do we find Azure AI Studio interesting? We'll still feel the survey to talk about that. But does anyone want to share something?
Hello, good evening.
Yeah, good evening.
Mr. Gangola, thank you for this insightful section. I'm Engineer Olalekan. I'm
Thank you for
very, very
joining us, sir.
happy, very happy for this high opening. I wanted to ask that hope the platform will be free because Microsoft.
Sorry, I'm no longer hearing you.
Purposes. Just presently, I'm a PhD student and I'm working on something that has to do with ML and deep learning. And what you have shown this evening now is a lot of services that are embedded in Microsoft AI Studio. I just want to know if some of those services are free or some of them you need to pay before we're able to make use of those services.
Okay. Yeah, there are free tiers, right, for most of them, the Azure AI services. So what I recommend is, I think you mentioned a PhD student, so you can get access to $100 credits for a year, right? Using like just basically verifying that you're a student, and then it's renewable yearly as long as you're a student, right? With that credits, you can experiment with whatever Azure AI Studios, whatever Azure services you want to experiment with, including the Azure AI Studio, right? And like I mentioned, there are some free tiers for whatever experimentation you want to do. So let's say you don't have access to the Azure AI Studio, the Azure for Students account, right? There is an option for a 30 days trial. You get $100 for the 30 days trial. So all you need is a sort of verification, which will be a card, like a valid card to verify, right? And then after the 30 months, of course, the $200 free credit would have expired. So you can do whatever experimentation you want to do within those 30 days or something, that's if you're not a student and maybe you just want to get started with it. So with that, you can also experiment with Azure AI Studios. But like I mentioned, even as our sites that they are free tiers, so you just have to be careful in whatever resources you are creating. So make sure you are selecting the free tier for whatever options you are trying to build, whether using cognitive search or maybe translation service or OpenAI or something. They are like levels of how what you can. I mean, there are limits, because when you go over the limits, then charges will be incurred. But there are free tiers for many of Azure AI services, right? So yeah, that's just what I can. I mean, I hope that answers your question.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That answers it. I will get back to. I will also discuss more with you. Maybe you can drop your profile on the chat so that I can pick it up and discuss more with you.
Okay, yeah, that's totally fine. I'll drop that in the chat also. Thanks for sharing that. Does anyone have a question or maybe anything to share? Maybe a remark of how far the session has come, anything they've gained or something. You can drop it in the chat, right? In case maybe you don't feel comfortable muting, or yeah. So you can just drop whatever thing you feel or you gained or want to share in the chat also. Okay, so let me get back to what we're trying to do and see if we can get something out of this. So I hope it was a network issue that caused the delay. Valid message cannot be empty. I don't get this. Um, the deployment is still active. Let me see. Okay, generating something already. So says Adam Smith, right? Is considered the father of modern capitalism. Richard Cantillon is arguably the originator of concept of entrepreneurship, and it gives you references. So that's like the point I wanted to draw out there, right? And if I click this, you'll see on a side note, it takes me to the particular point, right, where he's extracting all that. We don't necessarily have to read through all this, but you can just briefly see here that so record that since the father of capitalism once said that, and it extracts that information from within this to give us this direct answer, right? You can see from the second part to where it got, let's say for Richard Cantillon, if we briefly scroll through, you see, for instance, Richard Cantillon is arguably the originator of the concept of entrepreneurship. It extracts that information and gives it back to us. So that does basically retrieval augmented generation, right? And that's how a lot of copilots work. I mean, ones that work on proprietary data and the rest. So it's very easy for you to build a solution like this for whatever use case, however simple it is, maybe just personal, you can do something like this seamlessly with Azure AI Studio without the stress of trying to spin up, like I said, a virtual machine or something. You want to be careful, you want to use language. You can definitely use language. Maybe you want to build a more complicated, you feel you want to use code. But basically, Azure AI Studio is your best bet, basically, for anything that has to do with generative AI, right? An all-in-one place, basically. So I would encourage us to get started with it. If you're a student, like I already mentioned while answering, um, Mr. Engineer Lekon, right? Um, you can get started with Azure AI Studio, right? Using Azure, the credits. I think I can quickly, I'll share that in the chat, right? So we'll definitely have access to the chat thereafter. But let me just quickly do that. Wow. So for link for Twitter, if you want to reach me via Twitter, I'll just quickly share that now, right? So that's my contact for Twitter. And I'll share the resources that I feel that might be helpful for us, right? The Azure for students, and then the new. Okay, let me get that up somewhere. That's I'm coming. So, but while that is on, let me just pin up this survey for us. So, Microsoft Learn is the best place to learn all this. Basically, all that have been shared here, you can learn everything about it on Microsoft Learn. So, while learning on Microsoft Learn, there are like questions or project-based questions that you have to like. Let me just call them what they are: the labs, right? You have the labs, and then with the labs you can do some demo, like hands-on demo of how all these things work. So it's pretty interesting, and it'd be nice for you to like try out working with Azure AI Studio, and then doing that. I mean, learning about Microsoft AI services on Microsoft Learn. So you can scan this barcode also if you want to join the Azure AI community on Discord, right? You can connect with fellow enthusiasts and get with Microsoft experts and MVPs. It's a community I believe you benefit from generally as regards applying AI, right, using Azure services, Azure AI services, which includes the Azure AI Studio at the moment. So, like I mentioned at the beginning, I would like all of us to scan this survey. I'll leave this on right for a while. Um, just before we go, thank you. But let's come back and then fill this survey. I'll share it also. I'll share the link also in the chat. So in case you want to, you can scan it, right? I'll share this. Let me share it in the chat so we can just fill it up. Does that work? Okay. All right. So let me share that. So please ensure you fill the survey. It's pretty important, right? For us to get to know how you feel and what you think can be improved on, and all that information. Okay, so I've dropped that. So while we're filling that, like I mentioned earlier, does anyone have any questions, any reservations, or anything that they would like to, share before we all go? Is there any particular thing that you found interesting about Azure AI services? I mean, now let's focus on Azure AI Studio now. You get me? So, anyone? You can, like I mentioned, you can drop it in the chats or, go ahead to just, okay, I can see a hand raised. Um, Soundo, you can go ahead.
Yes, mine is a question. I have signed up for the account. I'm not a student currently. So I've signed up for the free account. I've signed up for the free account. So I think I've seen 200 free credit, but I'm seeing 30 days and then the 12 months. So I don't know. Is it going to expire after 30 days or I can use it for 1 year?
Yeah, it's going to apply I am expire after 30 days, right? So that's just basically how it works. It's for the student, it's a year, right? But for that free account, it's a 30 days trial. So once you see that it starts reading already, and after 30 days, it goes up. So it's not for a year. It's not for a year, it's for 30 days.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Does anyone have any other question? Okay, seems like there are no questions. Right, I'm about to drop the link for Azure for Students in the chat, so you can do well to check that out for yourself if you're a student, right? And you basically just need a valid identification that you're a student. So that's all that's needed. You can use your school email address, and if you have maybe GitHub student developer pack, you can use that to activate your Azure for Students also. So I think that will be it. I don't think there's any other question or any remarks anyone wants to share. So thank you, everyone, for making our time to join today's session. I hope you gained a lot. Yeah, I hope you gained.
Can we get the video of the section?
Of the set. Sorry, can you come again, sir?
I said, can we get the video? It's like you recorded it. Can we get the link to the video?
Okay. Yeah, I'll share. I believe you registered, sir. I will share
Yes, yes, yes.
okay. I will share the link. I mean, I'll share all that information through our email for those that are registered. And for those that didn't register, maybe might say interested, you can just reach out to me on Twitter. I shared my details in the chat. So I believe we've all filled the survey.
Yes, I'll fill the survey.
All right. Thank you very much. So thank you very much, guys. So that will be all for today. Thanks for making our time. Enjoy the rest of your evening. I mean, for those here, I think maybe some of us might be joining in from different places, but wherever you are, yeah, enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you very much. Bye.